Perfect. Thanks so much for coming, Brad.
Thanks for having me. I like your apartment. Are we supposed to know that it's your apartment, or?
Yes. This is, I want to remove this.
Okay.
Okay.
I thought you were going to give me workout tips.
Are you looking for workout tips?
I'm looking for a workout pill.
You want to get away from it entirely?
I don't work out, but I'd like to be more fit, but I don't want to do the work.
I think we're all...
I want a magic bullet.
A magic bullet. Are you a walker at all?
I do walk, yeah. I like to walk.
I honestly think that's it. If you just walk every day, you're fit.
But I don't feel fit, and I do walk every day.
Okay.
I feel like I'm pre-diabetic.
Oh, shit.
My feet hurt from not walking.
I want to just welcome you to the Karen Mitches podcast. This is Toronto comedian Brad Gosse.
This is Toronto comedian Karen Mitches.
Thank you. So, tell me about your death threats.
Let's just get right into the meat of the whole thing, right? I get a lot of death threats, probably more than any other comic in the business. Even like big comics that have bigger followings, bigger Netflix specials. Maybe not Dave Chappelle, but I don't know if he reads his death threats as much as I read mine, but I get 3 to 4 death threats a week.
3 to 4 a week?
A week, yeah. Sometimes daily, depends. If I have a video going viral, it'll be daily. But yeah, 3 to 4 per week. And I screenshot them and I share them on Instagram so that everybody can see who the butthurt little bitches are.
That's actually really smart, because I feel like if you sent it to the police, they would lose your file. But the internet remembers, right?
It does.
So
It's like a short list, right? It's like, if something, because a lot of them are very specific, like, I'm going to be at your show tonight. Or, where's your next show? I'm going to be there, after making the death threat. Somebody this week said, I'm going to be at your next show. Where's your next show? And I was like, well, I'll be at Growers World in Toronto at 9 o'clock tonight. And tomorrow night, I'm going to be at this place. And he was like, come to Albuquerque. I'm like, oh, that's not happening. So some people are like very specific. I'm coming for you. And then I tell them where I am. And they're like, when will you be in Alaska?
That's, yeah. They want you to do all the work.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta tell them where you're gonna be. You gotta bring the gun. You gotta load it for them.
I gotta put them on the guest list. Like, they can't even buy the ticket. They gotta be, can you get me on the guest list? Me and my shovel. Somebody threatened to bludgeon me with a shovel last week. I get a lot of death threats, and my followers are really good about bullying people. So when I screenshot the person's death threat, I never blur out their username. I leave it on there for 2 reasons. One, if I do get hurt, I want the police to know who the last few death threats were from. They can just go to my Instagram feed. If I'm dead, that'll still be there. And you can, do your detective work. But then I also do it because it shines a light on that person, and my followers go and bully him. They'll go bully that person. Like the last guy who made a big death threat, he was like, how about I beat you to death on video? How's that for dark humor? And I screenshot it and I posted it. And his name was Ben Sargent. And he had a public Instagram account. He had a YouTube channel linked to his Instagram account. And within a few hours of me posting the screenshot, he privatized his Instagram, turned off his comments, turned his YouTube channel into a YouTube Kids channel so nobody could comment on his videos because he was getting so much hate.
Oh my God.
From my people who have my back. It was just like, and I don't say, go get him. I just say, here's the triggered person of the day, and like I share the screenshot.
So how does that feel to have those followers who support you like that?
I love them.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I love them. It's like having a little gang, right? Where it's like, and I don't want to be like, oh, I want them to go and bully this person, but at the same time, I'm being bullied for saying words on a screen. Like, I'm in the magic rectangle and you're this mad that you're actually committing a felony by making this death threat against me. And so I appreciate that I have people who have my back enough to go and give that person a hard time. because they deserve to have a hard time. Like, I think they deserve it. And so whatever you get after you make a death threat to me is 100% your fault. And this guy ended up deleting his Instagram, deleting his LinkedIn. He completely went off the grid because I'm pretty sure somebody sent the screenshots to the HR department at his work.
Well, yeah. You kind of need to, like, remind people, this is public. Like, I'm in public, but then if you're responding, you're also, like, kind of entering this public forum.
Yeah.
You know, because I think sometimes people think they're putting, like, a comment on the internet and it's, like, sending a message just to that person. But you're publishing it.
Yeah.
Right? So a death threat's a real thing.
It's a real thing, but nobody takes it seriously when it's done in a comment. So even if I did send it to the police, which I don't do, because I have in the past dealt with the FBI over a death threat, and it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So I just have given up on, it takes a lot of time and effort to talk to the police to have something go nowhere, that you just kind of say, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to screenshot it. And then if I die, then the police will take it seriously and they'll go and find out who, that'll be their short list of suspects. So.
It's narrowed down for them.
Yeah.
But more on your fans, because I've opened for you. And I remember when I opened for you the first time, they were like, some of your fans had just rolled up wearing like fur coats, just like a bunch of dudes. Just, I don't know, that was just what they were feeling that night.
Yeah.
And it was fun because I'm a newer comedian, so a lot of the time I'm rolling with other comedians who don't have fans. And it was fun to see people who, it wasn't just that they knew you, but there was like an energy, like they were really pumped.
Yeah, I love that. I love when I get people to come to shows that are like fans of mine. And another comic that we both know, Jay Rainville, opened for me while we were doing a show one night, and some of my fans were there. And Jay does the voice for some of my characters. He does the voice for Clip Clop, the racist horse cop. And so he was on stage. He was like, so you guys are fans of Brad's? And they were like, yeah. And he said, I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm the voice of Clip Clop. And they were like, what? They got all excited. And he started doing the voice, and they were so happy. And he was just like... That
actually makes me like Jay more.
Yeah.
Because he's not a voice guy, right? He's
good. He does good voices. He does really good. He's done the voice of Clip Clop, the racist horse cop, Cucumber Curtis, and Becky the throat goat.
So can we get to know these characters a little bit more?
Sure, yeah.
Who is Becky?
She's a slut. She's a good little girl. She has a giant throat neck, and you're obviously familiar with the term throat goat, right? Like, we all know what a throat goat is, right? Yeah?
I have never heard that term before.
Amazing. I'm so happy right now. Okay, so you know the term goat, right? Greatest of all time?
Yes.
Okay, so the throat goat is the deep throat blowjob greatest of all time. And so I had heard the term throat goat a number of times. Whenever I hear a new term, like, because I talk to a lot of like younger people in my crowd work or my online crowd work that I do, like on Omegle or something. I hear terms a lot, and if I hear it a lot, I'm like, okay, there's something here. There's a meme around this. There's something about this. I'm going to research this, and I'm going to write a book about it. And so, actually, so Becky the throat goat is a real goat with just a big neck that swallows a lot of things. And so that just became like one of my characters in one of my books, and it's one of my best-selling books. But the fun part about it is that doing the research, I actually discovered who the real OG throat goat is. You're gonna love this. I can't believe this is so fun that you've never heard this before. So, Nancy Reagan,
yes,
the former First Lady of the United States, was known as the Hollywood throat goat. Apparently, she gave blowjobs on the movie sets. Like, before she was the First Lady, before she married Ronald, she was an actor. They were both actors, and she, this was back in the day when the casting couch was like a real. There was no Me Too movement in the 60s. You know what I mean? When she was in Hollywood, so she sucked a lot of dicks to get a lot of parts, and so there's like a whole story. If you Google it, there's a whole story about. And I thought about calling it Nancy the Throat Goat, But then I was like, it's too on point, and I may end up doing that book later, but she'll actually be like this little lady in a red dress as opposed to like a goat. But I thought Becky is another term for blowjob, so I was like, I'm gonna call her Becky the Throat Goat. It's like a rapper. It's like a hip hop phrase for like a white girl that gives head. So she's a white goat with a big neck, and on the cover she's swallowing a giant sausage.
I actually have seen your Throat Goat book, but who I haven't seen is Clip Clop.
Clip Clop, the racist horse cop. Yeah,
Racist horse cop.
he's a horse. He's a racist horse.
And a police cop.
Well, yeah, he's so. I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but at the end of the book, he gets fired. So technically, he's now a former cop, but he got fired for, trampling too many black people. But he basically he's a racist horse that is a police horse, or was a police horse.
I'm a big fan of police horses. So do you feel that I would get offended by this?
I mean, I think it's, yes, I think you would. I mean, I don't know. It's like, it's just such a fun thing to make an animal racist, right? Because I also have a racist dog book. So I love the idea of racist animals, because Clip Clop is a brown horse, right? So he has no business being racist, but for some reason, but I also feel like when animals are racist, they're mirroring like the energy of their person. So like maybe like I feel like the dog can hear your heart beating. That was the whole, like, my racist dog. They have super hearing, dogs, right? So it's like they hear your heart and they hear the change in your heartbeat, and they can tell when you're stressed out, and that's why they get a little weird sometimes. So you're out walking, if you're like this racist white person, or not even racist, but like phobic of like black people, and a black person walks by and your heart starts to beat just a little bit faster, the dog is picking up on that. So I feel like the horse is picking up on the cop's energy.
Oh, that actually makes a lot of sense.
It's just a theory. I have no scientific basis for it whatsoever, but I am commissioning a study.
But I actually feel just by like putting it out there into the ether, you're going to inspire some young grad student.
I would love that, as long as I get some credit on the paper.
Like a footnote.
Yeah, just to mention something. Like, this kicked the whole thing off,
So tell me about the first time you made a book.
So the first time I made a book was in 2012, before I was technically a comic, and I wrote a business book because I was an entrepreneur. And so I wrote a business book, but I was not your typical entrepreneur. I'm a high school dropout. I don't have an MBA. I didn't follow the path that a lot of entrepreneurs follow. I did it sort of punk rocky. Like, I did it in my own way. And in 2012, I thought, and I always wanted to write a book, but then self-publishing was kind of taking off. I'm like, okay, nobody's going to publish me, because I was too weird.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I'm going to write this book myself and self-publish it. And so I wrote a book called Chronic Marketer, and had a cartoon of me smoking a joint on the cover. And it was written by a pothead entrepreneur for pothead entrepreneurs. Nobody had spoken to that audience before. Nobody had ever written a book for them. This was pre-legalization. And I spent about 6 months writing this book. And it was, 250 pages, big letters. And it was a bestseller the day it was launched.
What?
Yeah, I did my own marketing. I was a good marketer, and I found I basically targeted on Facebook people who called themselves an entrepreneur or business owner, but also liked, High Times or Chills Bongs or Cheech and Chong or some other pot referenced thing. And by crossing those two audiences over, I just found this amazing group of people that were dying to be spoken to. Nobody had ever made it okay for them to smoke weed, because it was like the traditional idea of someone who smokes weed is like, they're lazy and they're in their mom's basement playing video games and they're not productive. But a lot of people are like hyper productive who get high.
Right.
And it's funny I'm saying this because I've actually quit smoking weed, but like, at that time I was a heavy weed smoker, and I was just like, I would go to these conferences and I would meet these super smart, super successful people. We'd all be getting high in some hotel room or on some roof somewhere. And it was like, nobody's talking about this.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to talk about this. And the book just blew up because nobody had talked about it. So all the people who identified with those two things zoomed in on that as like their Bible. And they were just like, I'm going to buy this book, even if I don't care what's in it. I just want to support this guy. It just kind of, that was my first book. And then I didn't write another one until 2019 when I started doing humor. But that book was humor. Like it was filled with funny. It was like, because that's always been my way. Is like I like comedy. I like funny. And so I put a lot of funny into the book. I made it kind of, it was cartoons. It was very like, easy read, easy to swallow. Just, kind of like a frat boy style, just in your face type of book. And it just did really well. So I like, then I just loved writing books, but I didn't do it again for several years.
That's really cool. So then what year did you do your first kids book?
2019.
Kids book.
Yeah, children's books. 2019 was the first one I wrote. So I came up with the idea of like children's books that aren't children's books. And I actually, in 2019, I created 100 covers for children's books that should never exist. Just because I was a graphic designer, I had a cartoon clip art company. And so I created all these book covers that didn't exist, and I used them like in advertising and stuff like that. And it was, none of them, I had no intention of making any of them into books. And then I made that into a book. It was called Daddy Drinks. It was just covers, but it was getting bad reviews because people thought it was actual like stories. But it was just one cover, like 100 pages of just book covers.
So people bought it thinking they were going to get stories, and they reviewed it negatively.
Yeah, and but then I realized, okay, there's something to these covers, and so I made a TikTok video where I said, my name is Brad Gosse. I write books for children, but my publisher keeps rejecting them. And then I showed the cover of one of the books, which was Why Daddy Hits Mommy, Kid's Guide to Understanding Alcoholism, and that video got like 1 million+ views. And all the comments were people saying, show us the book, read it to us. We want to see the pages. And so I quickly kind of went from, okay, this is just a stupid joke to I'm publishing this book. So I wrote this Dr. Seuss style book about, your dad comes home from work and, he's mad because the sinks are dirty and, he beats your mom. And like the video took off, the book started to sell, not like super numbers, but enough for me to say there's something here. Yeah. And so that was like the first of, I'm at 152 books now.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm interested, like, do you make well, you said you do graphic design, so you're putting together.
I lay it out, but I don't draw. I have a cartoonist who works for me full time.
Who's your cartoonist?
He is anonymous. Yeah, he doesn't want to be in the spotlight. He's in the Philippines. They're very religious, and they don't really want to be known for doing the weird shit that I hire them to do. So they're always like, leave me out of it. Okay.
Yeah, fair enough.
So
but great work.
I just pay him poorly, and he's happy.
And then I'm interested though how you became a graphic designer, but you said you dropped out of school.
Well, because I was doing, when I say, like, I did a lot of graphic design, because I was an entrepreneur, I did everything myself. I learned how, like in 1997, I taught myself how to build websites I went to Chapters and I bought one of these like Bible-sized HTML, books. And
I remember that book.
Yeah. So I just went through it like one page at a time. Okay, this exercise. And by the end, I was an HTML person. And then I learned to code by buying a PHP book, and I learned graphic design by buying a Photoshop book. And I taught myself everything I needed to know because I knew that I didn't have the money to hire somebody to do this shit. The books were like $30 plus my time. And so I would buy these books, and I would just, sit there at my desk with a bag of weed and some Doritos and just go through, page by page and learn these skills.
Yeah.
So I taught myself graphic design, and then I ended up my graphic design was kind of always part of what I did. And then I ended up, because I was hiring a lot of like cartoonists to create, because I always used cartoons in my like sales copy and my websites and all this kind of stuff. I ended up hiring these cartoonists to draw custom stuff for me. And before I knew it, I had like this library of stuff I had only used one time. And so I started selling that library as like stock photo clip art and built a business out of that with my ex-wife. And I sold that business. Once I decided to get into comedy, I sold the graphic art business and just did comedy full time.
See, I think this is the like kind of at the essence of like what I like so much about you is like this kind of like DIY. It's like it's an incredible ethos to bring just in general. I think it's a great thing to have in life. But I also feel like those of us in the comedy scene especially need to learn this, like how to just do things for yourself and just start doing it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a lot of people who are waiting for stuff to happen to them or for them. But if I was waiting for stuff to happen to me or for me, I'd be broke and, not happy.
Right.
Because nobody, especially with my brand of comedy, nobody wants to sponsor me. Nobody wants to, you know what I mean? Like I'm not getting, brand deals or, I'm not an influencer. I have no influence. So, which is fine. I don't want to be an influencer, but it's hard when your comedy's so dark and you're to the point where you get death threats and then you don't nobody wants to give me a special. Nobody wants to give me and I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's like, so that's why I knew I had to do everything for myself. I had to self-publish my books, no publisher. Like I sell more books than some New York Times best-selling authors. But
what?
Yeah, I sell like hundreds of thousands of books.
Okay, I didn't know that. I knew you sold a lot. Like you have an audience, you have people following you, but that's wild.
Yeah. And I've had publishing companies call me, and they're like, we're looking at you because they can all see my numbers, right? Like, we're looking at your numbers. You're doing how are you doing this self-published? And they're like, we want to be in the Brad Gosse business. And I'm like, that sounds really good. Let's have a conversation about it. And then they're like, well, we talked to 6 other people in the company and we don't think it's a good fit. Or whatever, So it's like, oh, so you don't really want to be in the Brad Gosse business. So Brad Gosse is in the Brad Gosse business. That's, I just do it myself because waiting for something to happen is a death sentence for a comedian. And I think you just have to work your ass off, do everything yourself, edit your own videos. You're here making your own content. You're doing it too. It's like, waiting for the sponsor, waiting for the studio, waiting for XM radio, waiting for fucking CBC or somebody else to like pick up the phone and call you. Forget about it. It's not going to happen. And if it does, great. But it has to be like a couple of offers. I've had a couple of offers from publishing companies. One of them, my best-selling book is called Mike Hunt Smells Like Fish. Mike Hunt.
Yeah.
Smells like fish.
And there's like a little dude with blonde hair and like a cute face.
Yeah, and he's fishing.
Mike.
Yeah, and he's Mike. And that was like my 121st book. And the other ones were selling really well. And then that one just blew everything out of the water. And I didn't know it was going to happen. It just happened. It was like pulling the slot machine.
Yeah.
And I just hit the jackpot with that book. But a couple of publishing companies that wanted to basically take the rights to that book, the offers that they made me were so shitty. They were like, okay, here's what we want you to do. We want you to take the book off Amazon for a year while we republish it. I'm like, okay, how much are you going to give me to do that? We're going to give you a $20,000 advance. It's like, that's a week of royalties. Like, don't come at me with these numbers and tell me that you know what I mean? It's like, they're offering such a little amount of money for me to do this big thing. And then when we republish it, you're only going to get half the royalties that you're getting from Amazon as a self-published author, but you'll be in stores. You'll be on Amazon again. You'll be in all these other places. I'm like, so you want me to give up like hundreds of thousands of revenue for a small advance, and then at the end of the road, I'm getting half the money? And they're like, yeah. But you get to work with a big publishing company. And I'm like, I don't see how this works for anybody except you.
because you've already found your audience and made your product and connected the two things, and now they're just like, can I be part of it?
Yeah, but they want in on it, and they want in on it for nothing. And so the few that have actually given me some type of even remote offer, the offer sounds so bad that like I have to put a stop on the conversation and say, this isn't going anywhere. This isn't happening. And I sometimes I'll say, look, I have other books that are coming out. If you want to be a part of something that hasn't been published yet, I'd be in. No. We want Mike Hunt. We want to be in on this thing that's super successful, but we want to cut you down. So it's just like, okay, I guess I keep doing what I'm doing.
They want to take no risk. They want to give up nothing.
Yeah, they want to cash in on the success and take some of the royalties, take some of the money, but not like, I don't know. It's a weird business, and it's so easy to self-publish. It's so easy to shoot your own content, put it up on YouTube, put it up on Instagram, put it up on TikTok. We don't need these gatekeepers anymore.
Yeah.
And if we wait around for them, because I talk to a lot of comics who are like, well, because I'll say, why don't you put anything up on social media? And they're like, well, it's not really my best work. I'm like, I put my worst work up on social media. Like I use social media like an open mic. Like I can find out if a joke is funny based on what the algorithm tells me. I don't have to wait for because you've done open mics. You go to these open mics and it's a lot of other comics who are not even trying to laugh at you. They're trying to not laugh at you, or they're working on their own jokes on the phone, and you're trying to tell jokes and you don't even you can't gauge from the open mic if your joke is even funny.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there is a benefit to doing the open mics because I guess what I want to do ultimately is be on tour and be performing for a live audience. So it's, some of the open mics are really crap. Other ones do have a bit of an audience. Like the Lab tends to put their mic at the end of a regular show, and then you can stay to watch the open mic. So you get people who...
Yeah, some people will stick around for it.
Yeah, so you've got a real audience to kind of test it out. But I get what you mean about just making your own stuff and not having to deal with gatekeepers.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm seeing, I don't know, it's I think every comedian wants to be on tour, but then they also want to have some kind of a TV show or a movie. And it's if you're doing your own content for just clips, sketches with your friends, you're teaching yourself how to make a TV show.
Yeah. And
then eventually you can, scale that up and do a proper web series.
Yeah, stuff will come along and other collabs will show up, other opportunities will show up after you start doing the thing by yourself. But just the idea of kind of waiting around for it or expecting someone to discover you if you do enough shows or you do enough whatever, it's just make everything set yourself up to be successful if nobody ever calls you. Set yourself up to be successful if what you're doing right now, you should be able to make a couple dollars doing what you're doing right now, and that if something blows up, that couple dollars will turn into something really tangible later. And it's always worked for me. I just like to be what's the right word? Self-sufficient and not have to wait on somebody or rely on somebody else to send me a check or write me a contract or cut me a deal of some kind. And I mean, I'm different too. I don't really want to be on tour. I'm a stay-at-home comedian.
Yeah.
I like it in my basement.
And you're a maker. You're creating these books, these things that are tangible and people can hold.
Yeah.
And it's part of the comedy of it. My friends who came out to watch me the first time I opened for you, they, it's my sister's buddy had brought that book to work because they work together, and and it's half of why it's so funny that you can hold this book in your hand and it's just hilarious. And I can picture Mike Hunt's face. It's hilarious. So there's something about that making a physical object.
Why do you want to be on tour?
Why do I want to be on tour? I think it's part of what I want to be in comedy for is the audience.
But what if they came to you? Why tour? I'm just curious, like, what's the specific, like, I'm not poking holes in it. I'm just curious. I'm not, it's different. I'm just curious what your motivation is. Like, is it the travel? Is it the new city, new venue, or is it like just having an audience in every city waiting for you?
I mean, the biggest part of it is the audience, but I also think it would be fun to see other places
Right.
in that way.
Right. Get that. I've done touring, like I've been to a bunch of different cities to do stand up. But I hate travel. Like, I like being in the place, but I don't like getting to the place. I don't like being on the plane. I don't like the airport. I don't like any, like, so there's a lot of reasons why touring to me just sounds horrible.
Yeah.
And I've been on tour, and it's like, it's a drag.
Honestly, I think touring has killed a lot of great artists.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that have to tour. Like, if you're a musician, you have to tour, and it kills them. Like, it's a lot. If you don't like being on a plane and you have to be on a plane or the tour bus, whatever it is, all year round, that's going to be alcoholism, sleeplessness, like anxiety, mental health problems.
Yeah, shopping addiction. That's my problem. But I love being, like, I did last year. I did Los Angeles. I did Nebraska. I did Omaha. I did West Coast. So I did a bunch of Alberta gigs and a bunch of BC gigs. And I love, like, I actually went on tour by myself in the US, but I went on tour with another couple comics in out west, and I avoided those two guys. Like, I was like antisocial. They stayed in these like shit places, and I went and stayed at like nice hotels because I like nice things, right? Yeah. So I would go and I stay in these nice hotels, and I love being alone in a city, in a new city, or a city that I've been to before, but I'm just like, I'm here to do 1 hour tonight, or 45 minutes, or 20 minutes, or whatever it is. And I just get to be this like lone person. I love going out. For some people, this is super cringe, but for me, it's like one of my favorite things to do is be in a city that I'm unfamiliar with, pick a restaurant, go and sit at the bar by myself and have dinner. Is like, I love it. I just love being like going for dinner. Not that I love having dinner with people, but when I'm traveling and I'm working travel, it's like, because I traveled for work my whole life. So I just love being in a new city and sitting in a restaurant I've never been in before, at the bar, having dinner by myself. I don't know what it is. There's like something special about that experience for me.
I'm trying to think about it. I guess I like walking in a new city alone.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd specifically think of like having a meal alone, that would be, but it's.
What would you do? So let's say you're in a city by yourself. What would you do for dinner?
Well, I would have a dinner alone. I'm just thinking, why do you love it? Like, what?
Because I feel like I'm an observer in a place that's like foreign to me, even if it's just like another white city in another white country or whatever, where it's not foreign, it doesn't seem foreign.
It's just Chicago.
It's just, yeah, exactly. It's just middle America or whatever. But it's like, there's something cool about just being in this new place I've never been in before, and just sitting there and kind of letting the vibe happen around me, but not participating in it at all. I am really, if I think about it, but I'm just sitting at this bar, you know, and when you go to a restaurant by yourself, and especially like, and I'm also a creature of habit. So if I go to a place and I'm there for a few days, I'll go to the same restaurant every time. If I find a restaurant I like, they're gonna know me by the end. They're gonna be like, oh, here comes this guy again, right? And so the wait staff and the people who work in the restaurant tend to like gravitate to you a little bit, because they're like, oh, this guy's here. You can tell he's from out of town. We can tell it, but he's come here every night. He seems to like it here. They're very nice to you, and you kind of get this like friendly vibe from the people who work there. I like that too.
You're being taken care of a bit.
Yeah.
There's something too about, you know, if I'm just eating and I grab something on the go, that's fine. But when you sit down at a restaurant, even if it's not an expensive restaurant, there's a little bit of theater.
Yeah.
And it brings you a little bit into the moment.
Yeah. And when you're at the bar, especially, because the bar is like, the bartender's there, they're your waiter, right? And so they brought they brought you the food from the kitchen, and you're watching them do their job. And so it is kind of a theater, but you also kind of get to hear a little bit of the whining that goes on with the servers, right? Where the servers will come and be like, table 15 doesn't like his daiquiri or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's just fun to kind of be a part of that.
And you get that feeling when you realize, oh, other people have lives too, and like you're a little bit privy to their moments.
I love that.
Yeah.
I want to be like, because I worked in restaurants when I was a kid, and so I have a bit of like, I feel for the people who work in the restaurant, even though like, I made a video where I undertipped the waitress that really pissed people off. That's not really who I am. I paid the waiter $20 just to have that seat for 5 minutes. But like, I feel like connected to these people who work in these places, because I feel like that could have been me. I could have easily stayed in the restaurant world but I would have hated it.
Yeah.
But I kind of get the disdain they have for the customer and how they feel about, and just listening to them. Like I'll be sitting there eating my meal, and the bartender will get a complaint from a server about somebody, and then they'll look at me and I'll roll my eyes like, what an asshole. Like I'm like, now I work there.
Now you're in on it. You're part of the crew.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the best city you've been in?
I love Los Angeles. I love New York. I don't really love a lot of Canadian cities. Toronto I like. Vancouver, meh. You could take it or leave it.
You didn't
Chicago,
like that kind of feeling where the mountains are around you?
I like mountains, but that doesn't make the city any like I don't know. Vancouver just has this like shitty vibe where it's like, there's like fentanyl addicts and tents on the street, and it makes me feel icky. It's like I don't know, something not. It's just not fun to be there. I always feel like I gotta watch myself. Like you gotta be like, New York used to be this horrible like crime-ridden place, but you go there now and it's like there's nothing to be afraid of in New York. There's so many people.
Yeah.
That even if someone does try and mess with you, other people are going to be in their face. Like it's just so much going on. And LA is still different. It's more spread out, but I just love, like, I went to LA last year to do comedy, and I did so many collabs with so many other creators in such a short amount of time while I was there, because everybody in LA is like, here in Toronto, we have like 3,000 people who identify as comedians, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, but at the same time, I'll post and I'll say, hey, I want to do collabs on like one of the comedy groups in Toronto or something. And like, people will say they want to work with you, they want to do collabs, but then to actually nail them down for the time is almost impossible. People here are like, they say they want to work with you, but then they don't really, like, some people will, but most people won't make the time. But in LA, the people who are there are working their ass off every single day. They're doing all the hard things. They're like, they're there to work.
Yeah.
And so they're professionals. It's like, okay, we're going to meet at this place at 2:00 in Glendale. We're all going to, okay, great. We go, and it's like, boom, boom, boom. Like 2 hours goes by and we made 5 amazing videos, and we all go home.
There's this guy in Toronto. He's like an Alberta comic, like from Alberta, but he was in LA for like 10 years doing school and whatever. And now he can't stay in America. So he's stuck up here, and he was used to doing like, I don't know, like 5 nights a night in LA, and then he gets to Toronto, and he's got our scene to contend with, but he can't get back to LA.
Oh my God. Who's this?
This is Luke Walls.
Okay, I know the name, but I don't think
he's the funniest guy. Like, he's just a really good comic, but his comedy is like a weird, like a mystery where he talks about what's wrong with him, but he doesn't know what's wrong with him. He's like,
okay.
Am I autistic? Was I molested?
Oh.
Am I gay? Like, what's the answer?
I love that.
There's a lot of comics, I think, who have something special in them, but I don't know if in Toronto right now, if we have like the scene to get people anywhere.
No, it's not. Nobody goes anywhere here. This is the place where you spin your wheels.
And then it's like, you gotta go to New York or LA.
No, you gotta go online.
That's where it's happening.
Fuck New York and LA. You can do it all right here in your apartment. You could become a super successful comic without ever leaving this apartment.
this apartment right now.
This one right here, right now.
Not England, because that's the other place I feel like comics go.
I don't know.
Mae Martin, Catherine Ryan.
Yeah.
They both were, you know, moved to England and toured around there for years and then ended up with, you know, the big specials and the TV shows.
Yeah. But that's like, there's such a, like, those people are, they're a minority in terms of the number of people who actually, like, do it. But I don't think, like, those people would have done well had they not moved to England. They would have found their place wherever they went. Like, I don't think it's location specific, although I think being in Toronto makes it hard. There are a lot of people here who manage to become successful, get a Crave show, get some kind of CBC thing or whatever. But I just feel like there's that path, but most people are ignoring the online path. The online path is the easiest way to do it without waiting for someone to discover you, without waiting for, you know, some gatekeeper to cash it in for you.
And I mean, Just for Laughs isn't happening anymore.
Exactly.
So it's in our hands. We're doing it ourselves.
Yeah. It's all, I feel, to me, it's all online. And it's always been that way because there's no barrier between you and the audience. You just make your stuff. They either like it or they don't like it. And you just keep taking shots. You keep pulling the slot machine. And sometimes you go viral and sometimes you know, your audience grows and sometimes deals come your way, whatever, but you're in control of the whole thing.
Okay, so what do we say to people who are maybe technology averse? Not averse, but they just struggle with it. They're not good at it.
Is this you or?
It is me, but
are
I
we
think
saying,
I'm not that technological.
Is it the people or is it Karen? Who are we talking to?
No, I'm not that technologically.
I mean, you got quite the setup
averse.
happening here, so.
Yeah, so obviously I got to this point.
Yeah.
But what do you think for people who literally aren't putting anything online because they're just like, I don't know how to do that shit?
Learn. It's the lowest like, you couldn't be any easier and you could figure it out in a weekend if you actually did the work. It's not rocket science. There's no tricks. There's no specialty. You don't have to understand coding to know how algorithms work. You don't have to, there's no real technical barrier to doing this stuff. You just have to get good at filming yourself and making some edits, but learn the tools. They're out there. Most of them are free or cheap as balls. Like I work with a set of tools that costs, you know, a few $100s a year to use. I'm not buying, you know, I mean, now I have expensive equipment and all that kind of stuff, but I started out doing it all on my phone. And, you know, there was no, I went viral with my shitty phone camera, my self-facing camera, you know, you don't need, everything's there for you. And if you wanted to learn how to use Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and all that stuff, it's a weekend of your time. You just have to learn the things. I don't know. I feel like that's an excuse people use. They're because I hear it all the time. Oh, I'm not good at that.
Yeah.
It's okay, well, get good at it. It's the easiest thing to get good at. It's free.
And it's okay to make shitty stuff.
Yeah.
You'll get better at it.
I cringe looking at my old stuff. If I look back 1 year in my feed, I cringe looking at some of my old stuff. I have some old videos that people comment on, and I'm like, oh my God, I should just take that down. But I'm like, no, it's part of the journey. I'm just going to leave it there. But if I go and look at that old content, I'm like, who was that guy? He thought he was funny, but he was building an audience. He was funny, but now I think, you know, now I've evolved. I think I'm funnier or I'm different. And I look at that old content, I'm like, that was it seems so cringy to look at the old stuff, but that's part of the journey. I'm going to look at today's stuff and think it's cringy in a year, and that's fine.
Yeah. And it's your comedy's getting better and sharper. And then there's with all your technological stuff, it's getting more professional and higher end. And so you're just leveling up in different ways.
Yeah.
I think that's where the focus I'm trying to have right now is just, it might not look as cool as some people who've been doing it longer, but I'm getting it out there and my people are excited about it, and then I'll start to find more people and keep getting better.
Right. But you don't do a lot on social.
This is one of the reasons why I wanted to podcast is to have something regular to be putting up.
Yeah.
Like, because if I do a podcast a week, then that's like, 5 clips out of the podcast that I can put on my Instagram. You want more.
Yeah.
Clips.
If you're making an hour podcast or a 2-hour podcast, that's like 30, 40 clips.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You want 30 to 40 clips out of this.
Yeah. Like what I would do, and this is what I do, at the end of your podcast, I'll be like, when this is done, send me the video and I'll clip a whole bunch of shit and send it to you to like, I got AI clip apps that do it all for me. I'd be like, throw the hour or 2 hours into a clip app, have it make the clips, and it'll take us and stack us into vertical and do all the work, put the captions on it, everything, and just like, here you go, publish the shit out of that. Like because you don't know, like.
I'm so glad I had you on, Brad.
I just tripled your workload. But I do. I feel like it's like you don't know what's going to go viral, and so sometimes it's the thing you don't like.
So I should let the computer or the robot pick the clips.
You can pick your own clips. And I do pick my own clips, absolutely. Most of my content is me picking the clips. But if I'm shooting a podcast, I'll give it. There's an app that I use called Opus Pro. You give it the whole video, and it will clip the shit out of it for you. And it finds and it edits it. Like I did like a 1 hour thing recently, and then I put it in Opus Clip, and it did such an amazing job clipping this thing. And even like there was an awkward moment where I was talking to this dude in a Teletubby hat. And like I was being.
You were wearing that?
No, he was wearing it, but I was being really like awkward. Like I do this thing on where I talk to people sometimes and I don't say a lot and I say very little and I make them feel uncomfortable. And I was doing that, so there were a lot of awkward silences. And at one point, just in the middle of the thing, Opus Clip zoomed in on this guy's face because he was like cringe face, and it zoomed in on his face. I was like, how did it know to do that? Like, how did the AI know to do that? And it just did an amazing job clipping this video. So it's like, sometimes it does things, like, I might not have thought to do that.
Yeah.
So let the robot do its thing, but then also do your thing on top of it and just publish it all. Like, I throw so much shit at the wall because I don't know what's going to stick. And when something sticks, everybody's like, oh, you know how to make viral videos. No, I don't. I know how to make a lot of videos.
Imagine this whole episode was just an Opus Pro advertising.
That's right.
I think I'm sold on it though. I want to at least try it once.
You should. You should try everything once.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Homosexuality, whatever. Everything should be tried once. And that's how you know if you like something.
Do you think you have to have gay sex to know if you want to have gay sex?
Yes. You have to have gay sex to know you don't want it or you do want it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you know.
I know everything. I've tried everything. There's nothing I haven't tried.
I love it.
And if I haven't tried it, I will try it.
I think that's
I've tried every
cool.
drug except fentanyl.
Yeah, please don't try fentanyl. And I'm also worried about everyone doing cocaine all the time because I think it's just fentanyl.
Depends who you're buying it from. I don't do cocaine. I tried cocaine. I'm like, this is not for me.
I'm sober, but also cocaine was never my drug.
Can we talk about why you're sober?
Yeah.
Is that a topic you're willing to discuss?
Yeah.
Why are you sober?
I had a drinking problem.
Did you? When?
I've been sober 8 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was your drink?
I don't know. I had different drinks. Mainly I just drank beer or vodka.
Okay. And you got like blackout drunk or?
That wasn't like my main issue. My main issue is just like the quantity of it.
Okay. And then you just one day woke up and said, fuck this, I'm not doing this anymore, or did something bad happen?
I had like an intervention of one, which was just like one of my siblings kind of sitting me down and being like, we've been concerned about you. And my brother's wife is a social worker. So my sister was like, if you talk to Lisa, she'll like sign you up for everything and like walk you through it. So I was like, that sounds like a plan. It wasn't shaming me. It wasn't like the whole family sat around and was like,
Right.
this is how you've ruined our lives.
This is how your drinking has affected me.
And then I guess after that, it was just like she let Lisa know I wanted to do it, and like Lisa kind of like took me up to CAMH. We got enrolled in some things. I had a weird thing where I was signed up for rehab, but they're like, I could go in. I wanted to get in at the beginning of December. That's where we're trying to make this happen. They're like, you can get in 2 days before Christmas, and then I kind of was signed up to go a few days after Christmas. And so then I had a month of just hanging out with my family, like over Christmas, drinking, and everyone's like knows I'm about to go to rehab, but we just didn't talk about it.
Okay.
And then I did like 5-day detox plus 3 weeks of rehab.
So before the intervention of one, did you sense there was a problem?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you were prepared for the conversation. You weren't like
I went
shocked.
through this like phase of my life where I was like expecting an intervention around every corner.
Okay.
And like I hadn't done anything like drive a car into something, but it was just like a lot of little things, like going over to someone's house and falling asleep, like before dinner kind of thing. Like,
right.
So it's just like, it was like really obvious there was a problem,
Okay.
but when you're in it, you're in it. And I think the biggest thing, like I think people overthink addiction. They want to like, everything's psychological. You want to have a big story about why is it you? And like, I think what gets people sober is knowing there's a solution. Like if you, like a lot of people will tell me they can't be vegetarian or vegetarianism doesn't work, but we know it works, but they feel like they can't do it. So then they'll say it can't be done.
Are you vegetarian?
I'm a lazy vegetarian.
Okay.
So pescatarian,
I'm
I guess.
vegan, so.
I love it.
Yeah. It took me this long to tell everybody.
You're just coming out on my show.
Coming out.
I love it. But yeah, I think like if you're ever like trying to get sober, it's like the thing you need is the path to sobriety rather than to like overthink it too much. Like just get on some kind of plan. Like it might not be rehab for you. It might be like, okay, I'm going to try AA, and then have like, if this plan doesn't work, just switch to a new plan. Like you're going to keep trying things.
Did you do AA?
I did not do AA. One of my friends who was like a proper, like he was into heroin and cocaine, he did AA and he swears by it.
Okay.
So I think all different systems work, but mine was that kind of like time away. And then I did programming like through CAMH that was like specific to like my mental health stuff. And that's another weird thing because I think with mental health, one of the things I learned is you sometimes just have to keep bumping up against the mental health system till you find what works for you.
Right.
Whereas like if you think, oh, I'll do this one thing and it doesn't work, and then you're like, I guess I can't be fixed.
Right. AA doesn't work, so I guess I'm going to be a drunk.
Yeah, like it's almost easier. Like what if you just said, I'm going to get sober over the next 10 years and I'm going to start trying right away, but I'm not going to be like, oh, I have to fix it this year or I can't be fixed.
Yeah, I get that. It's a journey. It's not like a hard line you draw in the sand with yourself. It has to be fluid and yeah, and everybody deals with it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Okay. I was curious because you told me you were sober, and I'm like, there's always a story. There's always a reason. There's always a thing. But I always wanted to know what it was with you. Like, was it drugs? Was it drinking? Like, drinking's never been my thing, but I love drugs. I love me some drugs.
What's your favorite drug?
It's a hard choice between MDMA and marijuana, but not everybody considers marijuana a drug anymore.
Yeah.
They kind of just look at it as this, like, I don't know, it's become so acceptable. But I've actually quit that recently because just finding that I don't feel as healthy, and I feel like the times when I don't smoke, I'm way more productive than the times when I do smoke. So I'm trying to because I'm trying to work harder, I shouldn't say work harder, I'm trying to work smarter, I'm trying to do more, I'm trying to make more content. And if I get up in the morning and I smoke a joint, I can talk myself out of working all day and just keep smoking weed.
Because the weed is like, it's the thing you're doing, right? Like
Yeah.
it's its own adventure.
Yeah.
And it'll make the smallest thing fun.
Yeah. And it's also like I can also find a way to convince myself that it helps me write. I can find a way to convince myself that it helps me be creative. But the reality is that I will not do as much work. Like in November last year, I quit for 6 weeks. And when I look back on that time, I doubled my Instagram following in that 6 weeks. I had some major videos go viral. I was up late working most nights. I was putting in way more effort and time than I normally do. And that 6 weeks carried me, like I went kind of, is it back on the wagon or off the wagon?
On the wagon.
So I went back on the wagon and started smoking again.
Oh, sorry, off the wagon.
I fell off the wagon and started smoking again. And then I never remember which one it is for some reason.
It's a weird reference.
It is weird. What does the wagon have to do with anything? Is there booze on this wagon? I don't know. But and then I smoked again for a long time. And then I caught myself and I was like, okay, this is not working for you. Like this is not benefiting you. But then I also have to find this balance because I also can find myself in a place of like, not high anxiety, but like right now I'm going through a Canada Revenue Agency audit, and it keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
Because I have this agent who is he's got a boner for me, and he's trying to.
He couldn't get you through the death threats.
Yeah. He's trying to tax me. I don't want to get into all the details. There's a tax here in Canada, HST, that we only charge in Canada.
Yeah.
And if you sell something to the US, which is where most of my money comes from, you don't charge HST. He's trying to reassess me on all my American income and add 15% HST to all of it. And so he's like, they've gone from owing me thousands of dollars to you owe us like tens of thousands of dollars.
Oh my God.
And it's like, for whatever reason, like it's like one of the few things in my life that can give me anxiety.
Yeah, because tax stuff is so scary because they have so much power.
Yeah, they'll freeze your bank account. They'll do all this stuff in the process, and so I've literally.
It's almost better to get accused of a crime.
Yeah, I'd probably be happier being accused.
Because I feel like a lot of the time you can just admit to the crime and the punishment isn't that much.
Right.
And you can but like with tax, it's
so that's right now like. The last few months of my life have been a little bit stressful because of that and just some other shit that's going on. But it's like, I try to manage because when I smoke marijuana, I go to bed and I sleep through the night and I get up at a reasonable hour. When I don't smoke it, I have trouble falling asleep. I have nightmares, and then I wake up in the morning tired. And literally like to the point where my audience is telling me, you look tired. You need to get some sleep, bro. And I'm like, man, like I want to sleep.
Okay. So one of the things I think like with my alcoholism, like I always had like for years, even before my drinking got really bad, like usually 2 nights a week where I got pretty drunk and it like shut my brain off. And I think one of the things that I had that was wrong with me, like I had a proper like anxiety disorder and I had agoraphobia. But I also just had like no ability to relax and like reset.
Agoraphobia is you don't want to go outside?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then like drinking was a way to like just leave that and like shut my mind off, have fun, be away from that. And it's weird that we started off the podcast where you were talking about fitness, but one of the things I took up like right after I got sober was running.
Yeah.
And it really helped me. And I'm not saying you have to run. But I feel like there's some kind of physical reset every week, and it could be like it's probably cardio, but if that's really a problem, I would almost say like consider like cold plunge, singing, chanting, like dancing, like something where you get like into like a fully different state that's not
masturbation. Would that work?
It does. Orgasm does disrupt your amygdala. Yeah. But I feel like it's not enough.
It could be its own addiction. It can become its own problem.
Yeah. And I feel like it doesn't reset you the way that like cardio or like a massage.
Right. I struggle with cardio. I don't like to sweat. Like, I hate sweat.
Is it phobic at all, or like, does it make you anxious?
You know what it is? Like, I have this weird.
Swimming.
Yeah, I could swim. I've thought about taking up swimming. I have a giant rec center right by my house.
Sorry, I interrupted you, and now I'm really curious. What's your thing with sweating?
So, I have this whole, like, and this goes back to, like, being a kid. But for some reason, I hate all things fitness, because when I went to school as a kid, all the things surrounding fitness were shitty. The gym teachers were shitty. The jock kids were shitty. I have, like, this, like, okay, I'll tell you a story. So I'm 6'5".
Yeah.
And I've been 6'5" since 7th grade.
Oh my gosh.
So I was maybe 6'4" in 7th grade. So I've been a tall kid my whole life, and I had no idea that this was a good thing. I didn't even know that I was tall. People would tell me I was tall, but it didn't click. Like, it didn't register. And I had no idea, even until I was, like, late 30s, early 40s, that, like, women like tall men. Like, I didn't know that. Like, it was almost like everybody was trying to keep this information from me because they didn't want me to have this giant ego about it. So I just walked around, like, thinking that being tall didn't mean anything. But when I was in school, in grade 6 and grade 7, everybody would ask me, "Oh, you must play basketball. You must play basketball. You must play basketball." I never played basketball. And I grew up in Hamilton, and I went to this, like, white school in Hamilton, and I was a bad kid. I was a class clown. I got in trouble. I got the record of suspensions in my school. For, every year I was the top suspended kid, top detentioned kid. I was an asshole. Like, if you were a teacher of mine, I apologize. I was a jerk. I'm hyper aware of the fact that I was just a prick, and I think I don't know how this happened, but basically this I had this history teacher. His name was Mr. Manzuk, and he was the coach of our basketball team, and he and I hated each other. Like, he hated me in his class. I hated being in his class. I caused all kinds of problems. I probably gave him all types of issues. And he somehow, like, him and the principal begged me to join the basketball team. They literally said, "You're the tallest kid in the school. We need you to join this basketball team. We can't do this without you. These other schools are coming. They've got these tall black kids. They're going to take, you have to help us." And so I was like, and I hated sports. I hated gym. I was one of those kids that always forgot his gym clothes because I just didn't want to do gym. Yeah. I couldn't be fucking bothered with it. And so I joined the basketball team in grade 7, and I was pretty good at basketball. I learned quickly. I picked it up, and I had the shortest reach to the net, so I could sink more balls than the average kid. And things were going okay. And then out of nowhere, so I played, I don't know, I think I was on the basketball team for like 2 weeks. We played a couple games, things were going well, and then one day I'm in Mr. Manzuk's history class, and I'm being a piece of shit, as I normally am. And he makes the mistake of saying to me in front of the whole class, "If you keep that up, I'm going to kick you off the basketball team." And I was like, I quit, mic drop, and I just said, "Fuck you." And then the other, like, the principal and these other teachers were, like, begging me, don't do this. This is your future. Don't do that. Don't let this ruin you. You can still do it. Like, he threatened to kick me off the team. I don't want anybody to have any leverage over me in my life. I've always been this, like, fuck you kind of a person. And the minute I feel like someone's my boss, that's why I've always been, like, work for myself. I can't handle having a boss. I can't handle you. Like, you tell me what to do, I'm not doing it. And so I just, like, so I have this, like, my whole life when it comes to fitness has always been, like, pushing back against the jock, the gym teacher, the whatever. And so I have this, like, weird stigma around it. And it's not like some trauma. I'm not, like, saying I have some, like,
no.
But it's just, like, I have this negative view of it. And it's not I didn't like. I know why, and there's no logic to it. There's no reason for me to think that it's bad, but I just don't like it. I don't like fitness. I go for a walk every day, and I would go swimming. I don't play any sports. I don't watch any sports. I couldn't give a fuck about the Maple Leafs. Like I'm just not I'm not I also take pleasure in a lot of bad things happening. So like I don't know, this is like a conversation for my therapist, but I feel like when bad things happen, I get really happy about them. So like I was watching the eclipse, everybody went to Niagara Falls for the eclipse.
Yeah.
And it was like a cloudy day. And I was like taking pleasure in the fact that everybody went there and they weren't going to see this fucking eclipse because there were clouds in the sky.
But is it bad things in general, or was it that type of a thing that you liked, that thing being ruined?
I like bad things in general.
What are your top 3 favorite bad things?
9/11.
Number
9/11 and 9/11. I don't know. Like I like bad things. Like I like thunderstorms. I like tornado warnings. I like, a murder on my street. I like, I take some pleasure in the tragedy for some reason, and I don't know what it is.
Is it the rush of hearing something horrible, or is it like the chaos?
It's almost like knowing that it's not me.
Okay.
Like, haha, that happened to you. I'm just sitting here watching it because I never leave the house, so nothing bad's going to happen to me. So it's almost like, haha, they all went to Niagara Falls to watch the eclipse, and they ended up seeing it. The clouds broke, and I was like, yeah, okay. But like, I wanted them to fail. Why? I don't know. It's like I've been trying to figure it out for the longest time. Like, why do I think like this? But I do. I take pleasure in others' pain.
Yeah. I don't really know. I don't have any ideas on that. I do understand being like fascinated by like extreme events, but what specifically that like you're happy if other people are having a bad time.
Yeah.
Do you think it's like feeling left out from it?
No, because I don't want to be there. I don't want to be in Niagara Falls watching the eclipse. I definitely don't want to be in the World Trade Centers when they're coming down. I don't want to be in New York City. I don't even want to be anywhere near it when it's happening. But like, I feel like so it's not like, oh, they got to go to that thing and it didn't work out for them. I didn't want to go anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, like I've been looking into like only child syndrome a lot because I have I feel like that's a thing. And I think part of that is like coming from a childhood where, because I had nobody else, no other kids in my house, when I would call around and all, like I think about this a lot. Like when I was a kid and I would call my friends and none of them were home, I just assumed they were together plotting against me. You know what I mean? And like, not like in a, like, I don't know, it's like this weird, like, it's just how your brain works as a kid. You don't know any better. Like, how come none of them are home and none of them called me? And then I'm like, I hope they're having a bad fucking time. And so like, I'm like, maybe it comes from that, or maybe it comes from like, just, I don't know. I take pleasure in, and that's part of why I think my comedy is so triggering, because I like pissing people off.
Is it also connected to like, it feels like you really don't like being told what to do, and you have like some desire for like extreme independence, so then maybe it's like you want something to reinforce that?
Maybe, but then but like, why do I take pleasure in a cloudy eclipse? Like, why is that?
I think we found like another mystery within comedy, which is what's wrong with Brad Gosse?
Right.
Like, to be continued?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. I mean, we could break it down. I don't know. I enjoy some negativity, and I don't know why. But I'm happy with it. And I think that's why I like even the death threats. I don't like the death threats. I don't want death threats. But I also would rather have death threats than people just say, that's unfunny. That's not funny. I'd rather it be like, these people think it's hilarious and these people want me dead, than these people think it's hilarious and these people are indifferent.
What's the quote about indifference? Oh, the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference.
Yeah, I could see that. Not giving a fuck. And I want them to care. Like, I'd rather they care and hate than not care at all.
I get that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been watching the Karen Mitches podcast, and
This is it.
This has been Brad Gosse.
This has been Karen Mitches.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.